Opening in theaters this week from 20th Century Studios is the horror movie The Boogeyman, and here's my review. Stephen King has a history of writing stories about some kind of hidden spectral power that affects lead characters in some way. Adapting his short story, The Boogeyman continues that, and there are a few intriguing themes exploring the bond between two sisters and how they help each other. However, after a while, the film relies on familiar horror movie tricks, and the monster itself comes across as an underwhelming creature. The final result ends up a fairly standard spookfest. The idea of doing a spin on the classic monster under the bed scenario has merit. There's a lot that can be done with the fear children have of a creature lurking behind the shadows. There's probably a point where many children would rather sleep with the lights on, and how their imagination stirs up frightening images. The filmmakers do take advantage of that premise in showing the effect this has on a therapist's youngest daughter, and there are a few solid scenes that depict her fear. Beyond the horror scenes, what's particularly nice about the film is how it depicts the relationship between the girl and her older sister, Sadie. Sadie, even when initially disbelieving in the boogeyman, nonetheless tries to help her sister. There's not the sort of mocking from her you tend to see in these sorts of stories, but rather a genuine concern for her well-being. Those are the best scenes in the movie, and Sophie Thatcher delivers strong work as Sadie. She has an acting style that brings to mind Mary Elizabeth Winstead, someone with her own share of notable horror film performances. Chris Messina also does well as their father, who he plays as somewhat emotionally distant, but still worried. The tricks pulled by the boogeyman give the impression he has watched other horror films before starting his haunts, like crawling on the walls or flickering the lights on and off. His design is also not particularly interesting. At a certain point, the movie becomes a typical creature feature, and it's not exciting when characters go up against the boogeyman. There are secondary antagonists, namely a group of teenage girls who interact with Sadie. They come across like the usual catty teenagers seen in films of young protagonists, and take time away from Sadie's scenes with her sister. The Boogeyman has its moments, with director Rob Savage looking to give the film an appropriate haunted house vibe. It does start strong with a few surprisingly shocking scenes for a major studio horror film, and the relationship between these three family members is decently handled. However, as it focuses more on the creature, interest wanes a bit, especially in the third act. The film strangely shares quite a bit in common with the recent horror hit Smile, and while The Boogeyman tackles its themes and ideas a little better, it nonetheless comes across as rather standard in its approach to certain story elements.